those responsibilities will now fall to Mr. Bernard and Mr. Rosmerick and on and on and on throughout the high school, and in some cases with the visual arts and music theater throughout the district. And this will be the last thing I think I have to say, statement that was developed by the high school council in its entirety, which is on page 10, C staffing. It is recognized that the lack of curriculum department chairpersons in the visual arts, music, theater arts, and foreign language departments has potential negative impact on the educational program. The school council supports the addition of a position of curriculum oversight in all academic departments whose responsibilities would be similar to those of curriculum department chairperson. We fully understand what brought us to this point without those chairs in place, and we look forward to there being some active discussion as to how those positions are treated, K to 12, 9 to 12, or 6 to 12, throughout the district in the future, so that there continues to be continuity and discussions amongst those departments throughout the district.
First of all, I support the curriculum chairs, department heads, or whatever. I think that we lose something by not having those people in place to coordinate and be responsible for the curriculum of those departments. Where are we, John, on the EAS report? Just curious as to how we're doing.
Yes, I think if you look on page 3, this headline goals for the plan, that second paragraph under the items A through F is about that. We have a 5-year report due in the spring of 2008. We submitted our 2-year report and received a very favorable letter back, which you might remember that. We all have a copy of that. But all districts are required to submit a 5-year status report. We have been working on that on a fairly regular basis. We do that through department meetings. We do it at the administrative level. Fortunately, there aren't an awful lot of recommendations that I think are of a glaring concern to me, that don't have the potential to either be met, or that since the time that the 2-year report was written and submitted have either not are underway. Plans are underway to meet them. So I'm optimistic that the report will be written, that we will maintain a very favorable status on our accreditation as we have right now. But I think from the council's point of view, if I can speak for the group, there are considerations that need to be there are things that need to be considered to make sure that a school maintains its accreditation, and those are things like staffing.
That's part of the reason I asked.
Labs, yeah. So
a lot of the recommendations in here are things that we could fall behind again if we don't.
That's true.
Look at some of these
If we were to ignore things that we believe as a council are important enough to know in here, a lot of them, if they were ignored, could jeopardize accreditation.
Right,
but I don't see that, because I think we take the approach with the school improvement plan that it's not a pie in the sky wish list. That it's a document that we feel we can work off of. So I don't think we've ever come in with any wild requests through the school improvement plan. These are things that we feel with a moderate amount of consideration can be achieved.
And that's one of the nice things about the 2-year plan, that it's a very fluid plan. It changes. And even during the course of developing the next school improvement plan, there have been changes that we probably thought of before since this has been put in place. It stays that fluid, and it just develops with what's going on in the building and the
One final comment is this helps us as we build our long-term budget, working with the finance committee and the selectmen. By having these things in place, it helps us to have something concrete to say, the high school really needs this.
Because they do have the staffing adjustment.
Right.
Can I make mention of one other thing? Just one of our goals has been for the last few years to maintain a very good level of communication with parents, and I think we've done a good job with that. The newsletter is something that's new in recent years, and another thing that we're going to be doing for September, and if you, in the report cards that went out on Friday, I sent a form out asking for parents to share their email address with us, because we are moving toward an email system communication through the office of the high school for parents that want to take part in that. It won't replace any written communication that we send home, but it will serve to remind parents of things. So we're hoping that, like they do at the middle school, that a lot of parents will take advantage of that. So we'd already received forms back. The report cards were received on Saturday, and I got forms today at the high school. So I think parents are looking to be on board with that. So we're hoping. For the 9th graders, it will go out in the July mailing. July 21st, I think is the date. No, you wouldn't have one, Mrs. Barker. The freshman one will go out in the mailing in July 21st, I think it is.
Again, what are we doing to address the SAT?
Well, what we're doing to address the SAT scores is a couple of things. It was mentioned about the preparation course that we have offered.
Now, that preparation course, is a cost associated with that?
For a student, yes, there is. There's no cost to the district, but there's a cost to the student. It's $595 for the course. It's, I believe, 13 sessions. We're running one this summer. It starts July 13th. I'll have one again in the fall, leading up to the November SAT.
Who administers the course?
It's Summit Educational Group. They're based out of Watertown. They do SAT prep. They do MCAS prep. I have found them to be very good. I think they do a nice job with our students. They work in a lot of communities in the area. We've had them on board since 2004. It's catching on, I think, because of, it's expensive, there's no question about it, but I think students have taken it, they've benefited from that, they have felt better about going into the test if they haven't already taken the test, is the information I have, or they've seen some improvement to their scores. I won't get an annual report until later in the summer on whether or not our scores have improved from last year based on whatever the national average might be. That usually comes in August. Of course, I'll share that with the superintendent, as I always have. The other things that we have done is the guidance counselors, and it's mentioned actually in the newsletter that I think you all got a copy of, they always devote a page or two to the newsletter for things that they can be offering for, assistance to parents and kids. I think I said in an earlier meeting when I came in and talked about the SAT scores, I think in some ways we may have been doing ourselves as a school a disservice by encouraging students to take the test probably earlier than they should have. Because there is one school that believes that it's good to take the test and be exposed to it and become familiar with the format for it so that you can improve as you take it more times. We have found that to not necessarily be the case, both by the college board and through the counselors networking with their regional group, which is called NACAP. It's New England Association of College Admissions Counselors, I believe it is. So what they have done is they've prepared a presentation. They did it last year for the first time, and they went into all junior English classes. And we did it that way because every student takes English, so you can hit every student in a small group setting by going into their English class, and they presented to them I think in a better way what their schedule should be for taking PSATs, SATs, and we're hopeful that by doing that, they're encouraging them to take them at a time that's more appropriate given that they've had basically another year of education in high school to hopefully perform better on the SAT.
What's the level of participation for prep courses that you're offering?
I would say on average a course has an enrollment of anywhere between 7 and 16 on average.
7 and 16?
Yeah. And we've run, again, I think probably 7 or 8 classes since Summit's been on board with us.
So we can take that course, bring it in-house. Our schedule is such that we have flexibility in the schedule to run a course like that by every junior. Do we have staff?
Well, no. The answer in a succinct way, no. I mean, I don't know that there is an awful lot of flexibility in the schedule to allow for something like that during the regular classes. I'm not going to say to you that it's impossible to do. Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, it's something I have thought about running an elective course, but I think our teachers are doing a good job in particularly math and science, in math and English. in working with students. I mean, the test has undergone, you know, some substantial changes that we are up to date on in the writing, you know, offering now a writing test. I don't know that there's enough data out there yet for us to say that we are weak in an area, negligent. I don't know that that has come about for us yet, because the scores that our students are getting them into the schools that they want to get into.
Right.
But I can tell you very honestly, would I like to see our average scores up? Absolutely, there's no question about it. I think they should be, because for some reason, whatever that is, I don't think they're necessarily accurately reflecting the abilities of our students. And what the root cause of that is, I don't know that I can point to that right now. But an elective course in the schedule is not impossible to do, but I haven't.
Program that comes into a block schedule and have a designated time during the year. If this course in the summer is of value, then there's some way we could introduce that to all the kids in high school interested, rather than for those that can afford to take it in the summer.
Well, I was going to that same direction, but even offering it after school, if we had staff that were capable of doing the type of prep course that the company that you have conducting it now, I mean, I think the cost is a deterrent for a lot of kids, for a lot of families.
Yeah, I don't know. I can imagine that it probably is. They have, Summit does offer a scholarship to students if there is a financial need. We have taken advantage of that. All three guidance counselors know that if a student comes to them or a parent calls them because of a financial problem, they will waive the cost completely. And they have done that for me. They have done that at my request, no questions asked. But we have to be aware of a certain situation too. It isn't just, you know, an afforded type of a thing. It needs to be a little bit more than that. But I can see that the cost is a deterrent. I mean, it's $600, $595. It's a lot of money. I don't know that I have the staff right now to teach a course to the level that it's being taught by Summit. I mean, that's a very specialized approach to teaching SAT preparation, and I don't know that I have a person on staff that would do that. There would, you know, obviously there'd be a fee, but it could be offset by, you know, student registration fees, you know, that might be cheaper than $595. You know, the program is a lot of hours. I mean, every session is 3 hours, 4 of the 13 are 3.5 hours. So it's a commitment. We did offer a Saturday course last winter. We've offered Saturdays, we've offered evenings, and we've offered summer. So, you know, there's been a lot of, there's been a fairly good amount of participation.
During some of those courses, they actually sit and take an exam.
4 of them. The 4 3.5-hour sessions are the
There's no
tests.
way you can do that in a PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
also-
I'm just thinking if there's some kind of assistance we can offer the kids in whatever shape that takes.
Okay.
It might be worth exploring.
Understood.
But, you know, I think you make a good point. North Benton kids, they get into schools that they apply to. I think they're well-rounded students.
I believe that too.
And the scores from the SAT test do not accurately reflect their abilities. I think the schools that get into.
I just don't want that to be an easy outburst.
No, I don't mean
No,
for it
no,
to be
no,
an
nor do I.
No.
And Maureen, on that point, I'd just like to point out that, you know, it's every year, is listed in the transcript, the schools that the graduating class are attending. But this year also on the high school website, you can also see a list of the schools that they were all accepted to, which, what?
For the first time there's an accepted list in the paper.
Yeah.
We do have kids getting into schools that are very good, but
That
if they
they're not
choose not
going
to
to.
go.
And some of those,
Cost money.
and
Yeah.
you're right, some of those are financial as well as long-term professional decisions that kids are making as to where they're going. But it's quite, this year's list was quite impressive.
I would add too to Mr. Venezia that I met with Dr. Trogan and Pam Bodwin in a series of meetings, and we looked at our curriculum and how we might weave things into the curriculum in those subject areas, math and English, you know, for SATs. But I think it came out after the last meeting that we met with Dr. Trogan, Pam, and I for a series of meetings to talk about that very thing. So I would agree with you. I don't want to hang my hat on the fact that, well, they're getting into where they want to get into. I don't think so. I think if I look at the numbers, and then I look at numbers of Wilmington or Tewksbury or Reading, and I say, I think we should be better than we are. Now, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for August. I think the work that we've done, I'm hopeful that it will, you know, pay off for us when the annual report is issued.